We will continue from text 23. This is where we ended last time. Here is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose transcendental form is experienced by the great devotees who are completely cleansed of material consciousness by dint of rigid devotional service and full control of life and the senses. And this is the only way to purify existence. So we discussed this last time, that rigid devotional service. Hence, that's what allows us to control our mind and senses. And when we have control over our senses, we can drive the machine called this body toward a certain destination, the destination of Krishna's lotus feet. This is today's verse. Somebody wants to read text 24?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I?
Please.
Sava ayam sakhi anugita sat katho vedesu guhesu cha guhyavadibhi ya eka iso jagat atma leelaya srijati avati attina tatra sajjate. Hare Krishna.
Translation.
Sorry, Prabhu. Oh, dear friends, here is that very personality of Godhead whose attractive and confidential pastimes are described in the confidential parts of Vedic literature by his great devotees. It is he only who creates, maintains, and annihilates the material world and yet remains unaffected.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
So, just a reminder, Krishna is leaving Hastinapur. And this is the conversation, the gossip that's happening on the rooftops and the balconies of the Hastinapur Vasis, the ladies of Hastinapur. We're talking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So just see how educated these women are in the science of God consciousness. Oh, dear friends, here is that very personality of Godhead whose attractive and confidential pastimes are described in the confidential parts of Vedic literature by his great devotees. It is he only who creates, maintains, and annihilates the material world, and it yet remains unaffected. So, from the Bhagavad Gita, we know these things about Krishna by now. But it is very clear from these conversations that these ladies are quite well acquainted with the understanding that Krishna is who Krishna is and his God nature. Next verse.
Hare Krishna, I'll read.
Sure.
Ravaji, come. यदा हि अधर्मेण तमोधियो नृपा जीवन्ति तत्रैष हि सवता किल धते वगं सत्यमृतं दयां यशो भवय रूपाणि ददात युगे युगे. Translation. Whenever there are kings and administrators living like animals in the lowest modes of existence, the Lord in his transcendental form manifests his supreme power, the truth positive, shows special mercy to the faithful, performs wonderful activities, and manifests various transcendental forms as in necessary in different periods and ages. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is almost word for word from the Bhagavad Gita, right? Paritradaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that wherever there is deterioration of dharma, to kill the miscreants and uplift the devotees, Krishna comes yuge yuge. Same thing is being stated here. So these ladies have understood the Bhagavad Gita quite well. Hmm? Although they didn't have the ISKCON uh, nicely bound hard copy version of the Bhagavad Gita, but it was understood. The knowledge was there available to these ladies. That means it was part of the culture. That, like for example, uh, even a child in a Hindu family knows that you should wash your hand before eating, and after eating, you should wash your hand and mouth. So it's part of our culture. It's part of our tradition. This is who we are, how we do things, cleansing, our body and mind, etc. So similarly, you know, back when things were a lot more richer, uh, culturally speaking, even those who don't go to Gurukul, who are not apparently educated, had the knowledge and the education, that is given in the Bhagavad Gita. At least that's my appreciation. 26. Aho alam slagya tamam yadokulam. Aho alam punyatamam madhurvanam. Yat esha pumsam rishabha shriyapatihi. Swa janmana chakramane chakramanena chanchati. Translation. Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood. So we are back to Mathura Vrindavan, right? So as Krishna is being spoken about in his godlike nature, his residence, his abode of Vrindavan is also being mentioned. Mathura, the land of Mathura. That how glorious is King Yadu, in whose dynasty the Lord has come, and God, husband of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmipati. So glories of Krishna being spoken by various ladies. Aho is like, oh wow, like aho, aho bata swar, yasas, yasasas, tiraskari, kushasthali, punya, yasaskari bhuvaha, pashyanti, nityam yad, anugrahe sitam, smita valokam, swapatim, sma yat prajaha. Undoubtedly, it is wonderful that Dwarka has defeated the glories of the heavenly planets and has enhanced the celebrity of the earth. The inhabitants of Dwarka are always seeing the soul of all living beings, Krishna, in his loving feature. He glances at them and favors them with sweet smiles. So there's basically it's their realization that undoubtedly Dwarka has defeated the glories of the heavens. Why? Because Krishna is present here, the celebrity of the earth. I love how they mentioned it. There was a video on Hare Krishna TV uh, where I talked about Krishna as the ultimate influencer. We talk about social media influencers. So I was mentioning how Krishna is the ultimate, the biggest influencer of all. So I appreciate from that vantage point how this word celebrity of the earth is being used to glorify the Supreme Lord. The inhabitants of Dwarka are always seeing the soul of all living beings. So basically, in this case, soul doesn't necessarily mean soul. I mean, it does mean super soul in one sense, and it also means the heart and soul of all living beings. Uh, Prananath, something like that. Krishna, in his loving feature, and he glances at them and favors them with his sweet smiles. Anybody wants to read?
Hare Krishna, bro. Can I
Please,
try?
please.
Nunam vrata snana huta dineshwara tamarchito hi asya grihata panibhi pibanti yastakhi adharam mritam muhur vraja striya tamum muhur yad asaya. Oh friends, just think of his wives whose hands he has accepted. How they must have undergone vows, baths, fire sacrifices, and perfect worship of the Lord of the universe to constantly relish now the nectar from his lips by kissing. The damsels of Rajabhumi would often faint just by expecting such favors.
How fortunate.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So these ladies are discussing how fortunate are the wives whose hands he has accepted, right? How they must have undergone. So basically, it is understood that to be Krishna's, so close to Krishna, one must have gone through a lot of austerities and everything. Just like uh, in when we were in Vrindavan, when we were in Haridwar, in fact, we met His Holiness Prabhupada Swami Maharaj, and many of us had the chance to, meet with him personally. He was mentioning, we mentioned we're going to Vrindavan in the month of December, and he mentioned that that was the time when the gopis did the Katyani Vrata to goddess Katyani. So in cold, like we know December is cold. In Vrindavan, December is really cold. And in that cold weather, the gopis would take bath in Yamuna every day. And after taking bath, go to Katyani Devi and pray to her so that they can have Krishna as their husband, right? So it is after great austerities, great piety, then one has access to accepting Krishna so so closely, so intimately. One gets access to. In fact, the gopis, um, just like here, the Hastinapur ladies talking about how fortunate that these wives of Krishna get to kiss him, his lips. Same way, the gopis actually talk about the flute of Krishna. That how fortunate is that flute? What that flute must have done in its past life. It's just a piece of bamboo, nothing else. But it is so fortunate it gets to be touched by Krishna's lips, as he plays the flute. And the gopis kind of talk it, it's slight jealousy that the flute is always on Krishna's lips, and how fortunate is the flute. So it's love. It's not jealousy in a vicious way. It's love. It's lolium. It's spiritual greed, right? And that is something that is expected of devotees to have spiritual greed. There are so many pastimes of devotees competing for services. Today, if you look at many temples, devotees often kind of shed off the services. Like, oh, it's not my service, Prabhu, give it to somebody else. It's not my responsibility. But actually, the privilege of service is unimaginable. And to serve the Supreme Lord, serve Krishna, uh, you know, it's not something that's compared to anything of this world. And one who has done so will understand how much it satisfies our soul. So, what to speak of being Krishna's wife, serving Krishna on a daily basis, you know, being a goddess of fortune in one sense, offering Krishna Bhoga. But the beautiful thing is, we have that same privilege. We are offering him Bhoga, we're putting him to sleep, we're waking him up, we're making his bed. We have the same privilege as the wives of Krishna. We have the same good fortune of getting trained in deity worship, so that when we are with him, we know exactly how to serve him best, right? Uh, when the nightly pastimes happen with Krishna and Radharani, the Manjaris are perfectly trained to know what to do, what flowers to keep where, how to make the betel leaf, the pans ready, What would Krishna want after the dance of Rasa dance when they're tired? Radharani and Krishna, what would they want? What would be their mouth refreshing refreshments, etc. So the gopis are trained in different ways of serving Krishna wonderfully. And in this Krishna consciousness movement, we're getting trained to do exactly the same, to put our mindset, at least, if not exact service, but at least a mindset of service is very important. Because, it is not after years and years of conditioning, we know only how to lord it over material nature. It doesn't naturally come to us to be a servant. But to be a servant uh, is who we are, especially to Krishna, and what to speak of Krishna's devotees, right? Uh, in the Christian ideology, often when we have debates and discussions, they say we have dominion over animals, hence we can eat them. Our theology is we have dominion over lower beings, so we must protect them, we must serve them, right? So whether it's a cow or a deer or an ant or a mosquito or a tree or a grass, uh, if we have responsibility, praja means that which grows, or in the land of the landowner. So one is a king. Praja doesn't necessarily mean only the humans, but anything that grows. So plants, animals, everyone, all living entities are considered the children of the king and should be taken care of accordingly. With that mindset, how do you take care of? It's service, seva. It's not lording over. It is act of service. So in any relationship, if we have the mood of service, right, that relationship becomes very sweet. What to speak of our relationship with our ultimate creator. So it might seem like they're talking about, oh, those gopis are so lucky they get to kiss Krishna and they get to hug Krishna and be with him. But they have gone through a lot of austerities, trainings, and everything to be in that fortunate position where they get to serve Krishna without pride, without uh, a sense of envy towards others who are serving him. 16,108 wives, imagine, right? Uh, envy means out. One thing that Krishna does not tolerate, envy. So envy is one thing that is in the material world that is not in the spiritual world. Because if we have envy, we can't enter the spiritual world. So it's important to understand these qualities, and it's not just a fancy thing. Krishna is a celebrity, he's a hero, and he has all these wives, and these ladies are. It's not a mundane conversation. This is Shrimad Bhagavatam. So, given this is Shrimad Bhagavatam, we should understand it from the divine perspective. Oh, friends, just think of his wives, whose hands he has accepted, how they must have undergone vows, baths, fire sacrifices, and perfect worship of the Lord of the universe. So this reminds me that the wives of Krishna in their past yuga, they were men. They were those rishis doing fire sacrifice in the Dandakaranya forest, where Lord Ramachandra was passing by. And when they saw Lord Ramachandra, they were so awestruck by his beauty that they just couldn't move their eyes from wherever their eyes were looking at Lord Ramachandra's body part. And even though there were men inside them, the desire to marry Lord Ramachandra was built. And they asked, in fact, approached Lord Ramachandra uh, that they want to marry him. And Lord Ramachandra said, sorry, not in this life. I have already taken Ekapatni Vrata. I have a wife. Not like, he could marry men anyway at that time, at least. So he said, but he remembered their desire. And those were the same rishis who were born as these 16,108 princesses who he saved from the uh, captivity of Narakasura. And by divine arrangement, they got their wish fulfilled by being married to Krishna. So they have done their tapasya. So it's very clear what these ladies are saying in Hastinapur is true. Those 16,108 wives of Krishna had gone through a lot of tapasya, a lot of austerities for yugas, you know, to be born as Krishna's wife. It's very fortunate to be in that position. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has made it possible for us, even though we are not done so much tapasya that who does some of us might have, but still we have the privilege of being with Krishna. Prabhupada said you can dance with Krishna. We are giving you, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving you keys to the back door entry to the rasa dance, to Vraj, you know, Vraj Dham, where we can serve the Vraj Vadhus, the damsels of Vrindavan, and serve Krishna under their guidance. So it is quite high up there, right? Being Krishna's wife is one thing. Being Krishna's lover is even higher than being Krishna's wife. So we have been given that position by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we can imagine how uh, privileged that position is, how enviable that position is, right? That has been given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Constantly relish now the nectar from his lips. The damsels of Rajbhumi would only faint just to expecting such favors. So now the beauty here is, yes, Krishna had his amorous pastimes with the Vrajavadus when he was in Vrindavan, but now it's the Dwarka queens. Having said that, they're saying the Vrajavadus would just faint thinking of such favors from Krishna, whereas these queens are getting it. Now the point is, uh, love in connection and love and separation, as we have discussed. So the Vrajavadus are experiencing love and separation, which is far more, infinitely more intense desire to be with Krishna. So that love is unthinkable, uncomparable to anything. When what's his name? Krishna's cousin? Blanking out. Where did we have lunch? Uddhava, thank you. So when Uddhava understood or somewhat got to appreciate the love of the Vrajabadhus, he, being who he is, extremely erudite, scholarly, close to Krishna, looks like Krishna, Krishna's own relative, he decided to be a grass in Vrindavan, right? So that's where we had lunch after Govardhan or during Govardhan Parikrama, Uddhava Kund. That's where Uddhava was apparently residing as a grass, hoping that Krishna's dear devotees, the Vrajbadhus, would walk all over him and he would get the dust from the lotus feet. Right? So that's the kind of conclusion that one should come to when we understand the intense love for the gopis that they have for Krishna. So we have been made very fortunate that something that the Hastinapur ladies are being envious of, or not envious in a negative way, but they're like, wow, how fortunate are those wives of Krishna. Even more than that is the Vrajabadhus, and we have access to being the servant of the Vrajabadhus. Right? Gopi Bhatter Padakamalar Das Das Anudas. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that one who says is Krishna's devotee is not his devotee. But one who follows the gopis and considers themselves the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of those following in the footsteps of the gopis is very dear to Krishna, very close to Krishna. The more down the ladder, the more closer to Krishna. Shrimati Radharani is the furthest down. She thinks she's serving everyone, right? So the hierarchy in the spiritual setting works very, very differently, illogically, right? So the more down the ladder, the more the servant mentality, the more servitude the mentality, the more Krishna's attention comes, and the more pride is there, more I'm the boss, I'm in charge, right? Krishna doesn't notice such people. They don't get Krishna's attention. So want Krishna's attention, become the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. Whoever you see, oh, that bird is serving Krishna. Let me serve that bird by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, that ant is serving Krishna so nicely, right? Like that's the hack, to be honest. You want to grow in Krishna consciousness, find Krishna's devotees, the most unlikely of devotees, right? And think how you can make their lives a little easier, how you can serve them. And Krishna notices that person who's at the bottom of the pyramid. That's the secret. So we have been given the great fortune by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we have been given the hacks by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's followers, right? So without being, going through so many lifetimes of tapasya and all that, we have access to Vrindavan Dham. Next verse, somebody wants to read?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
या वीर्यशुल्केन हृताः स्वयंवरे प्रमथ्य चैद्यप्रमुखान् हि शुष्मिनः प्रद्युम्नसाम्ब अम्बसुतादयो पराः यश्चार्हता भौमवदे सहस्रशः. The children of these ladies are Pradyumna, Samba, Amba, etc. Ladies like Rukmini, Satyabhama, and Jamvati were forcibly taken away by him from their Swayamvara ceremonies after he defended many powerful kings headed by Shishupala, and other ladies were also forcibly taken away by him after he killed Bhasmasura and thousands of his assistants. All of these ladies are glorious.
Now, if somebody reads, thank you, Mataji. If somebody reads this out of context, will be like, what is going on? Krishna forcibly marries all these ladies. What is going on? How can he be, God? But uh, there is a tremendous level of heroism and romanticism in this, right? Sweeping off the lady off their feet. This is something we might not discuss in spiritual association, but you see that all the time in Hollywood, in Bollywood, where men win over women, and that is a very attractive quality. So here, Krishna has won over these ladies from their Swayamvar Savas. How? By, you know, defeating the other competitors who were there. And especially for Rukmini, her brother, in front of her brother and to be husband, Krishna went right under their nose and abducted her. And when Shishupal came to stop Krishna, Krishna just but embarrassed him by cutting off his hair and making a fool out of him and just letting him be there, be insulted. And Shishupal was begging Krishna, please kill me, don't let me be like this is embarrassing, I'll be humiliated like anything, please don't do that. Krishna just let him be. you know because anyway Shishupal and Krishna didn't have a very good relationship. So so that's his heroism. Another time, um Rukmini, just talking about Krishna as a hero. Rukmini Devi wanted Parijata flowers. And at that time, Parijata flowers were growing in Parijata trees in Indra's backyard. Today, they're available in the Himalayas. That time, it wasn't. So, as Rukmini desired Parijata flowers, Krishna said, very well, I will go to heaven and get it from Indra's backyard. So Krishna goes to Indra and says, not just the flower, I want the whole tree to bring back to Dwarka. Indra said, no way. These flowers, this is for my enjoyment. Now, see, this is so weird, right? When Krishna was a baby, Indra did the whole Govardhan thing, went and apologized, did the whole shebang of, doing of Abhishek and everything else. Again, he's forgotten this is God. Again, Indra says, no, you can't take Pariyat tree, and ends up offending Krishna and gets his army together to fight one Krishna with the entire army of Indra. And Krishna obviously vehemently defeats uproots the Pariyata tree and brings it down to Dwarka for his Rukmini. Did he have to do that? Yeah, he likes to flex his muscles. This is, again, you see this in movies every day. There are bad guys attacking the lady, helpless Abla Nari, and then the hero comes, kicks all these bad elements, saves the lady, and the lady's like, "Oh, you're my hero." Krishna just does that every day. So, and he likes the heroism, he likes his ladies to see him that way sometimes. That's he does. So these things come from God only, right? There's nothing new that is there that is not in Krishna. So just wanted to kind of make that point, how Krishna sometimes, for his dear wives or dear devotees, takes on the role of a hero and defeats them. And so this forcibly word, as you see it, it should not be seen as a negative thing. It is Krishna winning them over, right? And being a hero. And that's God. He's a hero. Paritrana sadhunam vinashasha dushkritam. Eta param sritvam apasta peshalam nirasta shaucham bata sadhu kurvate yasham grihat pushkara lochana patir na jatva apaiti ahribhir riddhi sprashan. All these women auspiciously glorified their lives despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husband, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations. Okay, I'm going to read that again. All these women auspiciously glorified their lives despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husband, the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead, never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations. The devotee of the Lord are purified souls. As soon as the devotee surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord sincerely, the Lord accepts them, and thus the devotees at once become free from all material contaminations. Such devotees are above the three modes of material nature. There is no bodily disqualification of a devotee, just as there is no qualitative difference between Ganga water and the filthy drain water when they are amalgamated. Women, merchants, and laborers are not very intelligent, and thus it is very difficult for them to understand the science of God or to be engaged in devotional service of the Lord. They are more materialistic, and less than them are the Kiratas, Hunas, Andhras, Pulindas, Pulakas, Abhiras, Kankas, Yavanas, Khasas, etc. But all of them can be delivered if they are properly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. By engagement in the service of the Lord, the, the designative disqualifications are removed, and as pure souls, they become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. The fallen girls under the clutches of Bhaumasura sincerely prayed to Lord Sri Krishna for their deliverance, and their sincerity of purpose made them at once pure by virtue of devotion. The Lord therefore accepted them as his wives, and thus their lives became glorified. Such auspicious glorification was still more glorified when the Lord played with them as the most devoted husband. The Lord used to live with his 16,108 wives constantly. He expanded himself into 16,108 plenary portions, and each and every one of them was the Lord himself without deviation from the original personality. The Shruti mantra affirms that the Lord can expand himself into many, a husband of so many wives. He pleased them all with presentations, even at a costly endeavor. He brought the Parijata plant from heaven and implanted it at the palace of Satyabhama. One of the principles principal queens. If therefore anyone desires the Lord become one's husband, the Lord fulfills such desires in full. So, if you desire the Lord to be your husband, Prabhupada says the Lord will fulfill such desire. Actually, Prabhupada, this is not Prabhupada's words. Prabhupada is repeating the words of Shrimad Bhagavatam, the scriptures. Like here, he's quoting Bhagavad Gita, the Triya Vaishya Tatha Shudra verse. Here he's quoting Shrimad Bhagavatam, the Kiratas, Hunas. Hunas are the Chinese people, Huns. Uh, sorry, Kirat are the Chinese people. Hunas are the what's that place called beyond China, the desert area. I forget. Andhras, do we know Andhra Pradesh? Pulindas. So all these people were the Anaryas, those who were not Aryan civilization. They were uncivilized. They were not accepting of the Vedic way of life. And Krishna is saying even they can become the best of devotees, right? Although they were not the most advanced at that time, as this is spoken. This is this is Shrimad Bhagavatam speaking. So Srila Prabhupada is quoting only from Shrimad Bhagavatam. And there we are hearing that because of Bhaumasura as influence on these damsels, these ladies, they were the purity were taken away in one sense. But by becoming the husband, by becoming the wife of Krishna or associating with Krishna, they got purified again, and their lives became auspicious and glorious. Any questions so far? Questions, clarifications? No? Okay, moving on. Somebody wants the great fortune of reading this verse?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
एवं विधा गदन्तीनां सगिरः पुरयोषितां निरीक्षणे नाभि निरक्षेण अभिनन्दनः सस्मितेन ययो हरि. Why the ladies of the capital Hastinapura were greeting him and talking in this way, the Lord, smiling, accepted their good greetings, and casting the grace of his glance over them, he departed from the city.
Thank you, Mataji. So although they were speaking in their balconies and rooftops, Krishna is God. He's sitting in their hearts. So he can hear all of this. So as they're glorifying the Supreme Lord, Krishna acknowledges that, right? That they were greeting him, they were talking about him, they're glorifying him. So Krishna acknowledges that by smiling and accepting their good greetings. And just Krishna's smile and glance, Kataksha, his beautiful smile, that's it. Life is perfect. If Krishna smiles at us, our life is perfect. There is nothing else that one desires once they have received uh, Krishna's smile. And in one sense, Krishna has been pleased by them. Like Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted a kingdom that's bigger than his father, bigger than his grandfather, right? And we are talking about, being the grandson of Manu and great grandson of Brahma and whatnot. And with such material desire, imagine we have material desire of getting a car, a house, a foreign trip or something. This Dhruva Maharaj, a little boy, 5-year-old boy, he's desiring to have a kingdom larger than his father and grandfather, practically the universe. But when he sees the Supreme Lord face to face after his austerities, 6 months of austerities, he says, I don't want anything. I was asking for broken glass, but you're diamond. You know, all my desires are gone. All material desires gone by just being in your presence. I don't want anything. And it was, the Supreme Lord said, but you desired it, and I'll fulfill it because you wanted it. So you must accept my blessings. Just give me 1 second. And that's what happens to us. When we are materially affected or infected, we have all these material desires. But as slowly Krishna comes in our life and we grow in our Krishna consciousness, those material desires get replaced by spiritual greed. And slowly, all the things we used to find ourselves attracted to, uh, the the movies, the music, the various things, that whatever, everybody has different attachments, materially speaking, those get replaced with Krishna conscious music, Krishna conscious movies, with yearning to hear more about Krishna, being in association of devotees, being in festivals, going to holy dhams. Uh, they get spiritualized. And that's how we know we are progressing in Krishna consciousness, when our material desires slowly start subsiding and our spiritual desires grow. That's a sign of progress. And when that happens, we know we are moving in the right direction. So that's a natural outcome of Krishna consciousness. That doesn't mean we will quit our jobs and businesses and houses and spouses and everything. No, we're not going to do that. But the attachment part goes away, which is what Kunti was praying few chapters back. Queen Kunti's prayer was, take away the material attachment that I have towards my family, and let my attachment be spiritual to you and lotus feet, right? So same way, our material attachment goes away doesn't necessarily mean we give up this world. We start using what we have as Krishna's property. The car, Krishna's car; house, Krishna's house; friends and family, Krishna's given these people to me. How fortunate, right? So life of gratitude. So we don't believe in giving up. We believe in Krishnizing everything, seeing everything as Krishna's gifts, and thereby using them in service to Krishna. So Krishna left Hastinapur. Next verse, someone else read.
अजातशत्रुः पृतना गोपिथाय मधुद्विषः परेभ्यः शङ्कितस्नेहात् प्राययुक्तचतुराङ्गिनम्. Maharaja Yudhishthira, although no one's enemy, engaged 4 divisions of defense, horse, elephant, chariot, and army to accompany Lord Krishna, the enemy of the Asuras. The Maharaja did this because of the enemy and also out of affection for the Lord.
So more description, basically, VIP treatment. Krishna is leaving, so Yudhishthira Maharaj has provided with all the bodyguards and horses, elephants, chariots. At that time, uh, whatever was the proper kingly way of giving respect. The word Ajata Shatru is very important. One whose enemy is not even born. So Yudhishthira Maharaj is known to be Dharmaputra Yudhishthira, one who's dharmic. So even his enemies love him. So he doesn't have enemies. People, because he is such a great personality that is being glorified. But Krishna has a lot of enemies, right? Krishna has there are so many demons who don't like Krishna. So he's quite polarizing. Krishna as a personality is quite polarizing. There are people who absolutely love him and can't even, blink uh, to miss one moment of Krishna's station. And then there are those who can't tolerate him. So that is the nature of unfortunate souls. Okay, next verse. Atha, Mataji, go ahead, please.
Sorry, Prabhuji. अथ दुरागतान् शौरि कौरवान् विरहातुरान् सन्निवर्त्य दृढस्निग्धान् प्रायात् स्वनगरी प्रियः. Out of the profound affection of the Lord Krishna, the Pandavas, who were of the Kuru dynasty, accompanied him a considerable distance to see him off. They were overwhelmed with the thought of future separation. The Lord, however, persuaded them to return home, and he proceeded towards the Dwarka with his dear companion.
Thank you, Mataji. So, very appropriately, with profound affection for Lord Krishna, the Pandavas, all the kings and newly in government, They went to the great distance, to the border of the city to see him off, because their hearts were, being ripped apart, seeing Govinda, their heart and soul, Krishna, leave. They were overwhelmed with the thought of future separation. The Lord, however, persuaded them to return home, and he proceeded towards Dwarka with his dear companions. Right. So this is the proper way of greeting, devotees. I remember a scene when uh, in Chicago, Guru Maharaj, my spiritual master, His Holiness Ramapa Swami, he came to visit my house. Uh, there were devotees, and came. And as Maharaj is leaving, everybody came out. And as Maharaj's car was leaving, everybody was on the footpath. So everybody's kind of dandavat on the footpath. And as Maharaj's car went by, there are other cars passing by, and all these people are in complete awe. Like, what is going on? Why is everybody on the pavement lying down? the, the reaction of the face was really hilarious. But as I was watching this, I was laughing at the thing. But it is such a nice thing to do, when a great personality is leaving. Being there till the end as they get on their not chariot but car, and seeing them off. So it shows how to respect a great personality. What to speak of God, Krishna, right? Um, but it's not just that he's God, it's also that he is an integral part of them, of their family, right? The hearts are calling out to Krishna, like he's leaving. Oh, so they're not able to even give one moment, like at least one, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. That's the mindset, that little more association with Krishna, right? How wonderful must be Krishna, that this kind of attachment, attraction is there for those who have lived and breathed with him for years. Initial attraction we can understand, but those who stay with you, if they still feel so attracted after years of spending time every moment with you, that goes to show what kind of great personality, attractive personality Krishna must be, right? Okay, next verse.
कुरु जङ्गलपाञ्चालान् शूरसेनान् सयामुनान् ब्रह्मवर्त कुरुक्षेत्र मत्स्यान् सारस्वतानथः मरुद्धन्वमतिक्रम्य सौवीराभिरयोपरान् आनर्तान् भार्गवोपाग अच्छान्तवाहो मनाग्विभुः. O Shonaka, the Lord then proceeded towards Kurujangla, Panchala, Shurasena, the land on the bank of the river Yamuna, Brahmavarta, Kurukshetra, Matsya, Saraswata, the province of the desert, and the land of sandy water. After crossing these provinces, he gradually reached the Suvira and the Abhira provinces. Then, west of this, reached Dwarka at last.
Thank you, Mataji. So we can understand that he went from Hastinapur, Meerut, to Haryana, all the way to Rajasthan, right? He's been talked about the desert, and through Rajasthan, went through to Gujarat, where Dwarka is. So when we had the great fortune of going to Dwarka, we did the opposite tour. From Ahmedabad, we went to Dwarka. From Dwarka, we went to Somnath. From Somnath, we went to Nathadwar in Rajasthan. And from Nathadwar, we came back. So that's the line, the pathway of that Krishna took to go back to Dwarka. So we still have 5 minutes left. I just want to see if there are any questions or anything you want to share, your heart. That'd be nice to hear. I know a lot of these things are narrations. Um, is this enjoyable? Are you relishing this, or is it feel like a little boring and we should go a little faster? Any feedback?
Feels good to hear anything about Krishna Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you much. Anyone else has any feedback? Is it
Nice, Prabhuji. Racing only. Yeah.
okay? All right, cool. We will continue that way then. So I guess we'll end it here then, and then we'll continue from the next verse. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Have a good night.
Hare Krishna.